Everybody is an expert at something, but if you want to make a business out of selling your expertise, you need to figure out what it is that you do or know that no one else does, and discover how to break that information down into manageable bites to share with others. That's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, here's the show. Welcome to More Than a Few Words, a marketing conversation for business owners. MTFW is part of the Digital Toolbox from Roundpeg, and this is your host, Lorraine Ball. And today, I want to talk about becoming an expert. Because let's face it, people don't pay for mediocrity. They pay for expertise. And I can't think of a better person to have this conversation with than Mark Dunsmore. Mark has had a career and a path that, as I was reading his bio, sounded a little bit like mine. He started working in real estate. He was working his way up the corporate ladder, and he found himself stuck. He liked the process, but was frustrated because he couldn't do the things that he wanted to do. He started his own real estate business, and he still didn't have time to spend with his family and take holidays because he was busy working. And so while he was driving around the country, meeting people in his industry, he realized they were asking him to help build a real estate business. They wanted to learn what he knew. And so he set up the real estate investment training business called Goliath Sourcing Academy. And I'm going to let him tell you more about that and what he's doing now. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you for having me. That's such a great summary of my life.
I could relate because I definitely had a similar path where I started in corporate and recognized that I wanted to do things my own way. And lucky me, here I am after all these years. But I really appreciate the fact that you recognized your superpower was sharing your knowledge with other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that when I was a kid, when I grew up, my dad was one of these. It was the corporate ladder. We moved around a lot as kids, but it was always to the next step up on that ladder. We moved overseas. We lived in a lot of different countries, and I just saw that as being normal. You get into a career, and I loved real estate. Real estate was something that I was passionate about. I think because we moved around so much. We saw a lot of houses, we viewed a lot of properties, and basically I got into real estate in agency to fulfill that passion. But what I realized, which I'm sure you did as well, Lorraine, is the higher up the corporate ladder you go, the less you do of the thing that was fun, and the more awful the things you have to do become. And generally, it's not what you're passionate about anymore. It's people and dealing with handing bad news down and taking bad news up. So it tended to be quite awful. So in 2014, I decided I'd had enough. And I made the biggest mistake of not really having a plan. The pain was more to stay than it was to leave. And I kind of spent a couple of years. I set up my real estate consultancy business. I found deals for clients all over the UK, like you said in the intro. And whilst that was fun, the whole reason I set up my business was actually to spend more time with my family. The one thing at corporate, I was working very long hours. I was traveling all over the country. And I set up Goliath, the real estate consultancy, to give me more time at home and travel less. And ironically, I ended up traveling more and having less time at home. So it just totally went against my the whole reason why I set up in the first place. But as I was traveling around, people were going, "Oh, this is amazing what you're doing. I'd love to do something like this. I'm passionate about property, real estate." And it ended up that actually I didn't even realize that there was a world of teaching my knowledge to other people. It just, I thought that was something I did within a business to train my staff. I never thought that, people outside of my world would be that bothered about what I had to share. And the Goliath Sourcing Academy was born. And at first, it turned into this, I was just recording videos, doing it all online, because I know the real estate training industry, I think, is the same in the States as it is in the UK, which is a lot of seminars. You turn up to a big conference room, there's hundreds of people. And again, it's generally weekends. And, I wanted my weekends with my family. So online seemed to be the way to share my knowledge with lots of people in a cost-effective manner. And really deliver quality training for purposes of helping others, again, build their their property business. And over the years, 2016, I set that up with my business partner, Brad, who's a marketer. He's an internet marketer, marketing genius, and he'll like me saying that. And and we since then we've discovered that not only is it important to share your expertise with others, but actually to share your expertise with others in the right way. Just spouting off expertise is not necessarily the best way for people to learn. Quite a lot of people that get into the expert industry do make that mistake where they think that people need to know absolutely everything because you're the expert and they want everything. But actually, you need to take your students, your customers on a journey. You need to take them on a learning journey the same way that we go through school. We go through learning new careers, industries. We've got to take it step by step, and having that clear pathway is something that we sort of developed in Goliath within the real estate sector over here, and it's grown from strength to strength.
That's amazing how you took kind of what you loved and turned it into what you could teach others. And I want to go back and unpack some of the things that you talked about. The first is, how do you figure out, if you are running a business, where your expertise is that you can package into a training or a coaching or a consulting business? How did you identify the things that you knew that no one else did?
What was interesting, I think, when I started to create training from my knowledge, was that it was trying to condense my knowledge into things that people might be interested in. So a lot of people, like I mentioned before, at first I didn't even realize, I didn't realize I was an expert. I certainly wouldn't have considered myself. There are a lot of other people that know as much, if not more than me, in the industry, and they weren't training. So what gave me the right to train? So the first part of my journey was actually sort of overcoming this, we've all heard the imposter syndrome, where you feel like, why, if other people aren't teaching this, and I'm not that much of an expert. But what you very quickly realize is that the art of being an expert is to take what you know and make it as simple as possible for someone that doesn't know as much as you. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be some superpower in the industry that you're in. But what it does mean is that you just need to have that little bit more knowledge than the person who wants to learn from you, and be able to package that up in a way that enables them to progress along their journeys. And I think sometimes a lot of people get nervous about the expert industry, because there's a misconception that you need to know absolutely everything there is to know about a certain topic, whether that's marketing, whether it's real estate, whether it's, whatever it might be. But actually, the way to do it is to break down your knowledge in the things that not only you're confident with, but you enjoy doing, because I think you need to enjoy the thing that you're teaching in order to make it a long-term thing. And you don't necessarily, so whilst I might be a real estate expert, actually I'm a real estate expert in very specific things within the real estate market. So generating leads, speaking to property owners, speaking to buyers, negotiation. And you start to break down the real estate expertise as a general thing, and you start breaking that down into smaller chunks, and suddenly you feel more comfortable because you're going, yeah, well, you know what? I am better than most people at that bit, or I know more than most people at that bit of my industry. And you build from there, because what's interesting is once you identify the couple of things in your sector that you're interested in and you're passionate about and you're confident with, very quickly that ego takes you to a whole new level of what your information is stored in your brain, because you'll get feedback from your students. They'll start telling you, it's amazing. Thank you so much for your knowledge. I can't believe you shared with us that little extra bit. And next thing you know, you're on this whole pathway to creating multiple courses, coaching programs, mentorships. And that's the excitement of the expertise arena.
Mark, I can't believe that we have just burned through the 10 minutes.
We have, haven't we?
This was awesome. And I think you've given us some really good ideas on looking at your whole field and narrowing it down to those just 2 or 3 things that maybe you are better at than anyone else, and recognizing that that's where your real power and differentiation come from. That's awesome.
Good stuff. Yeah, exactly. That is it. You just really need to get over being an overall expert and identify the bits that you like. And if you like those and you're good at those, there's an absolute need for what you've got to share.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, thank you for being a part of the show. We are going to have links to your Goliath Sourcing Academy, as well as your new project, the Gen XY project. And I'm going to encourage my listeners to drop by and learn a little bit more about you.
Thanks, Lorraine.
If you've enjoyed today's conversation and you'd like to learn more about other topics for business owners, be sure to look for More Than a Few Words wherever you listen to podcasts. If you like what you hear, leave a review. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening.